perseverance, and faith. May your love shower all over us, our family members and friends, those who are in despair right now, going through a difficult moment. But also we ask that you guide the mind and heart of the dear friend Yasco Aracava, who will conduct tonight's meeting. May her be a vessel of love to guide us through the teachings of Spiritism. And may we, all of us, put into practice as we share a moment with our brothers and sisters, with your guidance, protection, and permission. We start this meeting today. And so be it. So we would like to welcome our dear friend of the gospel for this beautiful moment that we have here on June 15th. Hard to believe, but it's already the middle of the month, right? Yasco will be speaking with us from Brazil. And the topic of tonight's message, of today's message, is the man of the world is more fragile than perverse. Yasco, as usual, we thank you for this moment with you, with all that you have learned and rescued to bring this topic to us and to our hearts. We'll give you the floor. Thank you so much.
Can you check if the sound is okay, Leo? Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, friends. Good afternoon. Good evening. I'm so glad to be again with you, with this my dear family, SSB family, where I learn most of I know about the Gospels of Jesus. You all know my background wasn't Christian background, and also about the Spiritism. So thank you very much for the opportunity to learn those things. So I'm sure those made this incarnation of mine much more meaningful, right? Because knowledge is the beginning of the transformation, right? Okay, so let me share here the first slide. I will be talking, reflecting about this statement that Jesus made, and it is in the book Good News about Peter's denial. And Jesus in the end says, Peter, the man of the world is more fragile than perverse. We tend to judge others, some mistakes, some rudeness, some weakness, some fragility, always in a negative way, right? Not only ourselves, our self-esteem goes down when we fail, when we deceive someone, even when it was not consciously there to harm the person. And also, all the power, either religious power, church power, administrative power, people that hold some kind of power granted by the society or by the culture of that group, tend to use these these words to submit, to control other people, and to show who is the boss, right? And you have to obey, like the church say, without even thinking about. So it was always being, most of the time, used, you weak, you fragile, you vulnerable, either in family settings, in a very negative, degrading way. So Peter said to Jesus, Lord, why can't I follow you now? It was already in the end of the ministry, so was in that last week of the Jesus ministry in Passover in the earth. So Peter, by that time, was already almost 3 years or more in a close relationship company of Jesus. But why he asked this, Lord, why can't I follow you? Because he saw that there was some kind of rejection in his point of view, or the Lord is not trusting me. Why can't I follow him everywhere? I am the chosen. And then he says, I will lay down my life for you. I'll give my life for you. How many of us in some wedding vows or with our parents, with our friends, we say this, I'll give my life for you. And Jesus, that is not us, know a lot about our weakness, that soon he predicted that Peter would fail, in spite of his will. Oh, I am the one, his assurance about himself. So Jesus says, will you really lay down your life for me? Very truly, I tell you, before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. I imagine how Peter got completely shocked by this statement, answer of Jesus, because by stating his loyalty, fidelity to Jesus, Peter did not realize at that moment, he didn't realize up to that moment that human fragility is still an enormous challenge for us, that we are in this level of evolution, this level of trials and expiation. We are still trying to pay old debt and try to expiate the wrongdoings. But we, because we forget about the past incarnations, we say, no, trust me. So he did this to Jesus. So he didn't realize how fragile the human being is also him. That there is a big gap, big, enormous challenge. There is a significant distance between what we really want and promise, say, casually sometimes, or with some authority, but nevertheless is very far from the reality to deliver what we promise. We fail. That's why we fail, because we don't know the degree of our fragility, how weak and vulnerable we can be in certain circumstances. So 2 questions. Why do we hide these traits, weakness, fragility, vulnerability? Second question, are they all negative traits, like the big power people in power try to impose on us, make us to believe? Are all negative traits, to be weak, to be fragile? Or do they play a positive role in our moral evolution? Is this positive, to show, to be honest about my weakness, fragility? So let's see. Why do we hide our fragility? Why our difficulties in perceiving our moral, emotional, and intellectual fragility only pointing them out in others. You got a speck in your eyes when you have that big plank, right? You see the little dust, little spot in somebody else's eye, but you don't see in your eye. So it's easier to see fragility, vulnerability, weakness on others. Why we do that? Because we still need to be recognized only for our qualities and virtues, as we believe, and that was shown to us throughout many incarnations, in this incarnation, since we are kids in the school. We believe that showing some form of fragility make us weaker and inferior to others, right? Especially the boys, don't show your weakness. Don't come back crying. One punch, you punch it back, right? Therefore, we act arrogantly and play being over secure in our attitudes and speeches to disguise or cover up our inner feeling of failure or inadequacy. So, in the depth of our mind and soul, we know we have these weaknesses. But sometimes we cover up by like a survival mode, because we've been in a survival mode since our animal kingdom, that was millions of years. And as a human being, with our as this front part developed, that is ethical part, moral part, the part that makes all the analysis and compare and see if this is correct, this is not is honest, this is fair to others. This is very young brain, 20,000 years, 100,000 years, compared to millions of years. So we carry this instinct of survival since the animal kingdom to show power. Otherwise, the predator will come and eat me up. So we, as a human now, we play arrogance, security in our attitudes, our speeches, to cover up what we know. Only I know. When I'm sleeping in my bed, in my pillow, I recognize sometimes. So Buddha said, a mistake which makes you humble is much better for you, for your evolution, than the achievement that makes you arrogant. So when we start to be too much successful, easy life, everything that I put my hand, it becomes gold. Oh, be careful, because the arrogance, over security will come, and you start to be blind about others' necessity, being generous, being fraternal. So sometimes a mistake puts you in the correct place for you to be humble and recognize that you can fail, so you have to evolve. So, positive side of recognizing our fragility. Paul of Tarsus, you know about Paul. He was before Saul. He was a former horrible person from a powerful family, exerting powerful position in the Sanhedrin, in the temple of Jerusalem. He was the harshest prosecutor of the first Christians. After he encountered Jesus, he changed completely. He flipped completely his way of thinking about life, about others, about what are the real thing that matters, what virtues, what values. And after a long, long ministry, Paul said in one of his epistle in 2 Corinthians 12:10, when I am weak, then I am strong. So the opposite. When I am strong, I feel strong, I am weak. So he instructs that it will be difficult for us to achieve a legitimate well-being and progress if we are not aware of how fallible, vulnerable we still are. We will be later better than that, but now we still are fallible, vulnerable. So, why is so bad not to be recognizing that I am fallible? He says, if we do not learn to recognize our intimate difficulties, the manifestation of all the potential that we have within us will be hindered by the mask of pride. So pride, vanity will hinder the manifestation of the potential, the virtue potentials that we all carry within us because we are creatures of God. He put us in the conscious, all the potentials. But if we have pride, vanity, this will shield and all this potential cannot come out, which are humility, generosity, fraternity, acceptance of others, be indulgent, be able to forgive. All this is there. We have this potential, but the pride won't allow me to express toward my brothers and sisters. Strong people are not who do not have weaknesses, but who are capable of managing their problems calmly and confidently, using their own weaknesses and mistakes to develop the virtues that in essence are already within us. We carry this. Just that we have to remove this dust, this impurity called imperfections, vices, in order to have a clean mirror shining the light, the divine light. Let's see about Jesus and the followers. These are examples of all these imperfections. Imagine 2,000 years ago, today we have all this. Imagine 2,000 years ago. So in this first panel, you see arrogance when Mary of Bethany comes to wash Jesus' feet with that expensive perfume. All the people around said, who is this woman? He started to judge in their most arrogant way. First, because she was a woman, what a woman is doing there, right? Behind there is a woman, most likely is Mary, but she's serving. She's serving. The rest, these are Pharisees, all these people, men with power. So arrogance, hypocrisy. In the very end, when Jesus entered the day before he was prosecuted, people throw rug, palm leaves, and everything. Said, "Hi, Jesus, my Savior." But a couple of hours later, they all ran away and condemned him. Did not have the courage to say, he is the Savior. No, they didn't have courage to say. They chose also, or at least silenced. So was Barabbas was chosen to be freed, not Jesus. Illusion of material gain, of fast conquer, like is Judas almost selling Jesus to the Pharisees, to the doctors of the temple. In vigilance, this is a big one. We always be in vigilance. And Jesus asked his disciples, pray with me. Today is very hard for me, it's very difficult for me tonight. Pray with me. And they fall asleep. They fall asleep. But we ask, is a sin or a fragility? We have the fragility of illusion, like I said, is Judas, illusion by the power, money. Peter's fragility, inflexibility, insensibility to the fragility and imperfection of others. Mary Magdalene's need to be loved rather than to love. And our fragility in general, our moral imperfection, thirst for material gains very quickly, for thirst for social and financial position in order to submit others, to be above the others. I want to be boss because I see many other people below me. I was in an isolated island without anybody, why I need, to be a boss, to have money, or to judge. I'm alone. But because I'm surrounded with other people, I have to show I am bigger, stronger, above others. Why do we sin? Quote unquote, right? Why we fail? Why we fall in mistakes? Why we miss the target? We sin because we feel deprived, we feel imperfect, full of fears, and unresolved experience generate insecurities stored for many incarnations in our unconscious level and needy for love. We are always needy for love. We don't love other people, but we demand to be loved above all. So it's an accumulation of many unresolved experiences from the past lives that generate all the insecurity, all the imperfections. So we have to condemn others, to submit others in order for me to feel a little better about myself. But the most criminal, lower person that we decide to judge as low character, they are loved by Jesus, by God. And God sends always loving people, incarnate around us, can be in any type of relationship, or discarnated also, to help us in the correct time when they see that I'm likely to repent. They kind of reinforce that certainty, that security, that willingness, and then I begin the journey of transformation. So there is always, when we think, oh, I am changed, no, there is a help of many people from way behind in time, and now finally. So we know countless cases in the spirit literature. You remember in the book Liberation, Gregorio, he was the master, the leader of this in the dark place, a gang for, I think, 600 years. But his mother, I don't know, Matilde, was always there, tried to help, tried to inspire him. Finally, he changed because he got tired of being bad. Can you believe we get tired of being bad? And then he started his path of reparation and forgiveness because he didn't want to forgive his prosecutor because he thought he was a victim in the last very previous incarnations. So Peter and Jesus, let's see his example. Peter, he had all the reasons to trust completely Jesus, completely, but he failed. But look at that. When he first met Jesus in the lake, in the Galilee, Gennesaret lake, as a fisherman, when Jesus called him and Andrew, his brother, he felt in the depth of his soul, oh, I heard this voice before. I heard this command before. Yes, Jesus, I follow you immediately. Because he came prepared for that. So his voice, that voice, suave and but commanding voice of Jesus, he recognized and he remembered. So he was prepared. We know in the spiritual world, the great fishing. Jesus indicate the spot when they were tired that night, not fishing anything. And they fished so much that he had to call the other two, James and John, Zebedee, to come to help. Jesus chose Peter to trust him to walk on the water in this right panel. Who had this opportunity? Peter. Peter was chosen with John and James, only three of them, to witness the most magnificent transfiguration of Jesus, Elijah, and Moses in the Tabor Mount. That was a privilege. It was so astonishing beauty, the figures, that Peter wanted to mount the tent there and stay there. They also, the three of them, Peter, James, and John, were the only ones that were invited by Jesus to witness the resurrection, quote unquote, of Jairus' daughter. That was considered that. So we say how this rough personality with all these opportunities to follow Jesus very closely for 3 years, was molded by this encounter, and how it happened, these sorrow moments with his master when he denied his master. So in this book, Good News, chapter 26, Peter's denial, we can see, if you read the chapter, how impetuous is the personality traits of Peter. He was always incontemptuous. He was always disgusted. He was always disagreeing, very quickly to respond. So there is in Good News. Seeing that once more means Jesus said this before too, but again he was reinforced. This was in the last week of Jesus' ministry, that week of the Passover, was making a farewell recommendations. So, seeing that once more Jesus was making farewell recommendation, Peter gave expense to his restless temperament. That's how Humberto de Campos says, because he says, "Where in fact are you going, Lord?" The master gazed at him serenely to show him that he was interested in his curiosity. Jesus said, "Curiosity of Peter," and replied, "You are not yet ready to follow me." The testimony involves sacrifice and extreme selflessness. The testimony involves sacrifice and extreme selflessness. Only later will you come into possession of such an essential fortitude. So Jesus is saying, you're not prepared yet to sacrifice. That for that you have to be selfless. And we know when Peter really possessed this essential fortitude, he had to really suffer. However, Peter, eager to prove to his companion, because he was the one chosen to be the leader among the disciples, there was a lot of evil, of envy there too. Eager to prove to his companion the worth of his dedication, Simon added emphatically, seeking to gain the Messiah's trust in him. Well, Messiah trusts him. He didn't trust him. Jesus, he didn't trust him. I cannot follow you. Do you perhaps doubt my courage, Master? So, am I not a man? For you, I will give my very life. How many of us had exactly this sentence when we were challenged in our capability, in our loyalty, in our courage? How many of us are still doing this 2,000 years later? Do you perhaps doubt my courage, my words? And the Christ smiled and answered, Peter, your restlessness makes you worthy of new lessons. New lessons. So the lessons, the events to come for Jesus is not a fail, it's a lesson. He is teaching us as an educator, as a child. He doesn't mind if I fail. He's already predicting. So will come new lessons for you to realize what you say. He says, experience will teach you better conclusions. For in truth, I tell you that this very night, the rooster will not crow before you have denied me 3 times. Well, to say to this Peter, with his personality, that he will deny his master, this is for weak people. So, do you consider me to be such a bad and hardened spirit? Asked the fisherman, offended. No, Peter, I do not consider you to be ungrateful or indifferent to my teachings. But even today, you will learn that human beings are more fragile than they are perverse, ungrateful, indifferent, all these bad vices. No, they are just fragile. Then comes the imprisonment. Imprisonment. There is the test that Jesus said. So when Jesus finally was taken by the Roman army, everybody realized this is serious. Now we're in trouble. So all the people, most of the people did not go accompany Jesus. And Peter was fallen from behind. So he went to the Caiaphas palace in the courtyard where Jesus was taken and held in jail. And the people recognized him and told told Peter, "Aren't you one of that man companion?" They called Jesus man. Peter reflected for a moment and realizing that this was a decisive moment. He answered, hiding his emotions. "No, you are mistaken. I am not. I'm not his companion." So someone said, "That's him. He is the disciple who I think is attacked us with sword amid the trees in the garden." Remember that Peter wanted to save Jesus and cut the ear of the soldier, and Jesus reprimand him. Simon Cloud stood up and protested. "You are mistaken, my friend. You can see that it can't be possible. I'm not his followers." So as soon as he uttered his final denial the third time, the neighborhood roosters crowed, heralding the dawn. So the dawn came, time for the rooster to crow, and he realized what Jesus said. Peter recalled the master's words and felt disturbed by infinite anguish. I can understand the perturbation that Peter felt, the anguish. He staggered to his feet and instinctively turning towards the cell in which the master was a prisoner, he saw Jesus' serene countenance contemplating him. In the grip of indescribable remorse, the disciple left, ashamed of himself. Taking a few steps outside, he reached the outer walls, where he stopped to weep bitterly. Emmanuel, in these two books, The Consolador, Chico Xavier, and the book The Way, the Truth, and the Life, chapter 89, Peter's Fall, he gave some interpretations of this episode. So let's see first. In question, this book, Consoler, is made of questions that people made Chico's group or all the surrounding spirit center there in Minas. They would put the questions to Emmanuel, and Emmanuel would answer. This question 390, what lessons does Peter's denial offers us? Peter's denial serves to signify the fragility of human souls, lost in the invigilance and lack of concern for spiritual reality, allowing themselves to be led indifferently into the darkest vortexes of suffering without considering a legitimate and sincere effort in the definitive edification of themselves. So it's too much on earth, material world, in vigilance, no growth of spiritual values, no knowledge or consciousness about the spiritual reality, just rejecting those. And then comes a vortex of suffering. But this vigilance, a lack of concern for spiritual reality. That's what is the lesson. And in this book, The Way of the Truth and the Life, Emmanuel gets exactly this verse. But Peter followed him, Jesus, afar off onto the high priest's palace and went in and sat with the servant to see the end. He didn't want to be seen as a special person in relation to Jesus. He was far, following him far, and mixed up with the servants of the palace. Imagine. What a denial. So Emmanuel says, the gospel informs that in that hour of supreme work, Simon Peter followed the master at a distance. Careful reading of the text clarifies our understanding, and we recognize that even today, many friends of the gospel continue to fall in their aspirations and hopes as they follow Christ from a distance, afraid of missing the immediate gratifications. Well, while I go try to see my spiritual growth, or going to the Spirit Center, or doing something good for the poor, oh, how about my immediate gratification that is, well, to have a new car, to have to win the lottery, to do whatever. When called to important testimony, they linger in the vicinity of the arena of redemptive struggles among the servants of utilitarian conventions. Look at that. Holding, examining binoculars. I'm at such a distance that I need a binocular to watch those important things. So we forget to be really involved examine binoculars to observe what the end of other people's service will be like. Just judging others. Our apprentices under these conditions will naturally fail and cry bitterly. Look at that. When I see this, oh my God, I will fail and cry bitterly with anguish. This is hard. This is hard to leave this world and go to the spiritual world. So when starts the beginning, when began the Peter's redemption? It's the moral sorrow. It's the painful moral pain that makes us really stop the course of the things and then beg for Jesus' forgiveness. Because he ran away, he locked his eyes with Jesus' eyes, was all tender, but he was feeling bad. He needed Jesus' forgiveness. But how to get now? It's too late. And then after all the events that Jesus is crucified, and they all, except John, they were not there to witness. He had no time, no opportunity anymore. But Jesus never abandoned. Through the veil of his tear-obscured eyes, Peter experienced a magnificent, consoling vision. It seemed that the Master came to him in spirit, in the solitude of the night, his lips wearing that same usual serene smile. Imbued with comforting divine emotions, Peter knelt down and murmured, "Lord, forgive me." But in that instant, in that confusion of his anguished thought, he saw nothing else. It was then that the old fisherman, who reflected more austerely, recalling Jesus' kind warnings, when he said, "Peter, human beings are more fragile than perverse." So, he who had been austere and before a resolute man, who had invariably condemned those who stray from the truth and the good, who had never been able to forgive the most unfortunate women. There he was, smitten like a child facing his own wrongdoing. He was beginning to grasp the reason for certain painful experiences by his brothers in humanity. In his mind, a new source of respect for the unfortunate in this life start to blossom. So the painful experience, the failure, the moral failure especially, there is a meaning, there is a role. That's how Jesus said, you need now a new experience in order to realize and to change completely your way of being. And of course, he got Jesus' forgiveness after his resurrection, when they all went back to Galilee to start to fishing again, because they were all down, they didn't know what to do, and Jesus appeared to them. Remember that miraculous fishing, and they could not find any fish for a whole night, and comes this figure, resplendent figure, and said, throw the net to the other side. They said, who is that person? But they threw because they were so tired. And there came a lot of fish. And when they went to the beach, there was Jesus already with the breakfast ready to share the bread, the fish together with them. In that moment, he asked Peter, Peter, if you love me, he asked 3 times, if you love me, feed my sheep. Be the leader. Don't let anyone be lost. If you love me, feed my sheep. In that moment, Peter was certain that trust of Jesus signified his forgiveness of his past wrongdoing. Beautiful. So there is all these steps: guilt, repentance, expiation, and reparation. We stuck sometimes only in guilt, which is not good. Just to repent is not good. It needs to expiation and reparation. Perhaps we don't have time to say too much, but Saul becoming Paul, he had to suffer a lot, was a very powerful doctor of the lay, persecuting Christians, and became the weaver, very humble weaver, had to go back and ask for forgiveness to all his victims, and became the apostle of the Gentiles, the most important apostle of Jesus to spread his teachings towards all the west side and arrive up to the new world, like to us. And of course, Peter happened the same thing. He and his friends, his disciples, founded the Mansion of the Way, or the House of the Way, the first house for assistance based on love, compassion. And he started to also heal the people. And in the Heaven and Hell, the chapter 7, part 1, Future Punishment According to Spiritism, item 16, they say, even though repentance is the first step towards regeneration, it is not enough by itself. Expiation and reparation are still required. These 3 steps comprise the 3 necessary conditions for erasing the remnants of a wrong and its consequence. Repentance softens the rigors of expiation because it awakens hope and prepares the way for rehabilitation. Only reparation, action, however, can annul the effect and thereby destroy the cause. Otherwise, forgiveness would be just an act of grace alone and not an annulment of a wrong. So we need to act in order to erase, and not just cry, right? And in the Gospel according to Spiritism, this Bishop Dufetre says about indulgence. Be strict with yourself, but indulgence towards the weakness of others. And then all of you have bad tendencies to overcome. All of you. Bad tendencies to overcome. Defects to correct, and habits to change. All of you have a burden that is heavier or less heavy, but which you must get rid of in order to scale to the peak of the mountain of progress. Then he says, for if the human heart is in the abyss of corruption, there is always in some of its hiddenmost corner the seed of a few good sentiments. Live sparks of spiritual essence. We all carry, so it just needs to be awakened. So as a final tips, in order to be in the correct, secure path for reparation, regeneration, and reparation, to do good, reconcile, and forgive. So in question 642 of the Spirit's book, they say, in order to be pleasing to God and to ensure our future situation, is it enough simply not to do what is evil? No, all must do good to the best of their ability, for all will answer for all will answer for all the evil that has resulted from the good that left undone. So we need to do good, because when we miss to do the good, the bad enters, invades. Reconciliation, Matthew 5:25. Reconcile quickly with your adversary while you are still on the way to court, while you living here on earth. Otherwise, he may hand you over to the judge when you discarnate. So the conscience come, and the judge may hand you over to the officer, and you may be thrown into the prison. To the officer, to the prosecutor, to the obsessors, and prison may reincarnate again in a body. And forgive, covering sin with love. Peter 1, chapter 4, verse 8. Above all, love each other deeply, because love covers over a multitude of sins. If the other one doesn't accept my forgiveness, doesn't matter. I have to be willing to go there and ask for forgiveness humbly. So by you doing this, I start to raise my arrogance, my pride, etc., and replace with generosity, humility, fraternity, goodness. Thank you very much. Hi.
Can you hear me okay, Yasco? Can you give me a thumbs up?
There is a little bit of echo, but
Yeah, thank you. I'll try to keep it
it's
short.
okay.
But yes, still, thank you for this beautiful reminder that you bring to us, right, in terms of the actual this idea of diversity versus our weaknesses, and how we're going with this, where we are with this, right? This is very interesting because, as you mentioned, during this time of the times that we're living, to show weakness is very hard, right? To show our vulnerabilities is extremely hard, especially being a man, right? It's a tough, it's a difficult uh, position to be. Let's put it that way. We do have some of our dear friends saying hi to us,
Hi,
sharing
Rosaura.
some of their hellos to us. We have this
Who
person
is
saying hello.
Blanco?
She would
Blanco.
like to know it a little bit better as well. But he
Yes,
says
C means to miss the mark, to miss the target. Yes.
again, we
That's
have
why,
a
that's why failure is part of the success. It's like throwing, the dart. We may fail many times, but this is part of being successful later. So failure is not that bad.
so we have also a thank you, Yasco. We also have a question
Hi,
here
my
from
love.
Brando. It says
I
regarding
know he's in
fragility.
Brazil.
What was that?
He was in Brazil. No?
No, I don't think so. Linda's here with us. I think is he in Brazil? Oh, he's in Brazil. Okay, sorry. I did not
Yeah.
know. Sorry.
I'm paying attention.
Regarding
Fragility.
I think he said fragility and weakness. My question is if strength and courage are traits added naturally to our personality throughout life's experience or something we should strive to acquire.
Well, strength and courage depends on it's so individual, you know, because only I know in what section, what part of me I am weak or I am incomplete. I lack of courage. I stay only on the top of the fence. Certainly, if those are two, we cannot change completely suddenly because if we try to do this, we may go jump to the other end and be obnoxious, be trying to subject others. So everything has to be done in order to slowly, not in this one incarnation, to slowly develop the good strength, moral strength, the good courage. It doesn't need a bravado, oh, I'm going to save everyone. No, it's courage in a very controlled way, in a meaningful way, and when it's required. Because sometimes I feel I'm so courageous, I need to save someone, and we mess up everything. How many times we did this? We, instead helping, we didn't allow other people that are competent, professional, to help to do the job. So those things are very, we need to strive, but in a very conscious way, in a very humble way, knowing, look, I can go that far. I cannot save someone. We also do this, save somebody else's life, so save someone that are uh, in drugs or whatever. So, no, we have our weakness, our limitation is there. And in our level now that we are so imperfect, this judgment of what is the correct level of being strong, being courageous, this judgment is very imperfect, So I think we have to know thyself like this, know, and we strive to acquire, to see around, and see when I can put myself there, and fragility and weakness is not, like I said, a bad trait. We need to be aware of our because we have it, but be conscious in order to humbly try to overcome the wrongdoing. Because if I have my pride, my arrogance, I won't even try to recognize I am making mistakes. I shut up myself and think that I am correct. The other ones that are not understanding are not following my leadership. So be careful that we have to use, like said, our weaknesses and the mistakes, and develop the virtues on the top of this.
Thank you so much, Yasco. It's a great answer. And when you confirms that he's in Brazil and he says, thank you for the great talk as always.
He is in Brazil. I'm following all the.
Awesome. Anyone who would like to ask a question? I do have a question, Yasco.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you bring us back to that moment with Jesus, right? And Peter was right there at that moment with him. So, can you give us an example, or what would be a moment nowadays in our lives when we are denying Christ?
That I denied. That's what
we are. That Leo, you put me on the.
we made a mistake as. Oh yeah,
As far as the denial, as far as the because
we are always doing this. I think it's more frequent than what we realize. When all the wedding vows, look at that, what you promised there, Leo. You promised to be there. It was a sincere promise. I don't think they were just hypocrite. No. At that moment, I don't know if love make us not to be rational. I don't know what it is, the passion. But we promise to be with the person in the bad time, good time. Comes the first challenge, especially when comes kids with difficulties, with health issue. The men, they abandon. How many single women are there raising their kids? Of course, there is single men too, but are rare elements, rare people. But because they broke the promise, they denied what they promised. They deceived. They were weak in such a way that they could not face and abandon. How about without him? It would be worse to the mother. Can't the person think about this? How many times in the workplace you got so frustrated with a colleague that came willing to help you? In the end, you learn that that person is not trustable, but you trust a part of your job, and the next day is not there. Denied the promise. How many times comes a person, that I say, oh, I don't know how to do this good. Oh, but I know. And you trust that person that said that know better than me. So it's kind of not knowing. We have all this because we are in this planet, we are in this world of trial and expiation. We need to have all these experiences in order to strengthen our moral values, in order to accept that the other one is weak, the other one is still lagging behind, and strengthen our virtues, our moral values. Otherwise, it's easy to go to be with the monks in the Nepal. What will be my growth? They are always kind, calm. It's only to have a discipline. So if I have a discipline, I'm okay. But there is no challenge of personalities, of of bullying or something like that. It happens always. I think I should challenge who never failed on someone. I challenge.
It's very interesting, and I'm glad that I put myself in the spot there because it is, and I'm quite sure I would like to, number one, clarify that as I'm smiling here because I'm thinking you as we like to call Professor Aracava, right? Always, pushing us to our limits and reminding us of some of these things that we were talking about here today. And for sure, saying this obviously with a good heart, with a good intent in mind, that as you just asked, who hasn't put ourselves when we haven't put ourselves in this position many times, and it may happen again, right?
Otherwise, we are in the wrong planet.
Yes. Yes.
We should be in Sirius.
Right.
We are on a mission here on Alcyon. But we are not.
That is correct. And I think this is a good reminder to all of us to in order for us to be in a position where we can reconcile with others, we should reconcile with ourselves.
Exactly.
Right? And I think just so, as a final comment, one of the most beautiful things that, at least that I'm, one of the, among the many things that you have mentioned, that you have brought to us from this passage of the book, is that Jesus did not go back to Peter and said, Peter, you're a poor soul, you this or that. Peter, Jesus came back and said, take care of my sheep. Here's some work that you can do to redeem yourself, right? You didn't put Peter down. You didn't do anything to
nominate the shepherd. Imagine.
That, just saying, here, do the work and you will feel better about yourself. You will feel better about the world. That is one of the most beautiful things that is a great reminder for us to, right? And for us to redeem ourselves, because it's like when we're in that guilt process, right? And we don't look for other things. We don't look for the opportunity of it. So that to me is definitely also a great reminder, because Jesus could have taken different approaches like we do nowadays.
And they all that ran away, they all came back strong after great suffering, anguish. So it seems that we have to learn through this pain and suffering. Otherwise, we get, we can't awake. It seems we are in that illusion, like the Buddhists say, in delusion. But the things are here so impermanent. It will go. So we have to see what is permanent, is our spiritual nature, condition, and we have to strengthen morally as a spirit.
Well, my dear Yasco, thank you so much for this beautiful moment that you shared here with us, this reminder, this encouragement, right? That even the men that did Jesus, they had their failures, they had their...
See Emmanuel, see Publio Lentulus, how much, look, he had the opportunity to be with Jesus in most painful situation, which was his daughter Flavia's illness, which was very serious illness. His wife asked him. He denied Livia. Can you believe that, angel? How could Publio Lentulus deny Livia to be the mother? And he had encounter with Jesus, and even that, his pride, weakness, didn't allow in that moment to shine all the good potentials that we all carry. He put a big, strong stone there, right? So it needed 2,000 years, millennium, like Jesus said. If you don't follow me now, it will be in 1,000 years or more. Yeah, that was. So Paul.
This is a very interesting topic, not to extend even more, but it's easy for us to look back now and say, how could he have done that, right? But at the same time, as I propose a question here, and you also mentioned, when do we not fail, right? Um, it's easy for us to look back now and say, how could you have done this, right? When it was right there in front of you. But as you remind us, it happens all the time with us still.
But
So what's
it's,
tomorrow?
it is very fresh to me because we start to read the 2000 years ago now. And I was almost envious of Publio Lentulus because I said, how come? He had all the warnings. If you see the first chapter, that dream that was almost a nightmare of him being his grandfather, great grandfather, whatever, he recognized himself in that horrible person. He was warned by a lucid, like we say, lucid dream. It was so clear. They sent Livia, as a very evolved spirit, to follow him, to be his support, and he rejected. Then what happened to him in the end? Suffering, suffering, suffering. But finally, he started his redemption, right?
Very well. Yes, it's a good reminder for us to read again the same book that you start reading again, right?
So I asked Yasco, did you have your dream so clear? What you did bad in the last, like Publio Lentulus was granted? I don't remember. I said, this is not fair. This is not fair. Do I have this angel with me, like Livia? Who is my angel here? You know? And they said, well, probably you don't need it. I don't know. That was a good thing that person said to me. But anyway, anyway, stop.
Yes, it is. It is pretty tough. So we would like to invite you to close out, and would you like to say a final prayer for us? So
Final prayer?
yes, please.
Okay.
Then we'll give ourselves farewell.
Okay.
Thank you, my dear.
Thank you. So thank you first to everyone that was watching me. Very good to be with you. Present in presence there, look at you, and later in the video, right? So let's calm down our mind, our heart, in order to emanate the best of our thoughts, our sentiments, in order to talk to God, our Father, in order to talk to Jesus, our Master, in order to talk to Mary, the Mother of Nazareth, and all our benevolent spirits, familiar spirits that follow us throughout many incarnations. First, to be so grateful for allowing this incarnation, for putting everybody in the correct place, in order for this incarnation to go through. My ancestors, all the people that came before, all friends and family of these friends that are around us here in the Spirit Center, in the workplace. Thank you for all this preparation and kindness to put all this effort for us to progress. And even in the moments we are distracted, you send some inspirations, some good person around that comes to remind us of our duty, or during the sleep when we go to the spiritual world and we have still a chance to learn. So, this is an invaluable opportunity for us to exert our power, our willingness, our will to diminish, to limit our vices, our bad habits, our imperfections, our wrongdoings of the past, and at this time, do the good, do correctly, being generous to others, being fraternal to others, forgive myself, forgive others humbly, and be alert, vigilant towards all the incidents, that roadblocks that will come in our path of evolution, in order to not fall again in the same hole, in order to move steadily, correctly, doing good, reconciling, asking forgiveness, and help as much as we can. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be part of the SSB family, that I learned so much. I learned everything that I know about you, Jesus, about your Gospels, about you, Allan Kardec, the Spiritism. Thank you so much, and this will be of very good help for me to go forward and jump a little bit forward in my evolution. Thank you, and so be it.
So good.